My name is Victor Langston, and for 24 years, I poured my heart, sweat, and time into a company I once called home, Ardent Core Industries. I wasn't a flashy executive or some keynote speaker at conferences. I was the guy who kept the wheels turning, the man in the background who knew every inch of the logistics floor, every shift rotation, every vendor who needed nudging, every system that had to run like clockwork. And then, just 9 days before my 25th anniversary, a milestone that would have activated my $75,000 loyalty payout, I was called into a glass-paneled room and handed an envelope. Across from me sat Celeste Morton, the newly minted VP of Operations. She didn't look up when I walked in. Her voice was monotone, as if she was reading weather reports. Due to ongoing restructuring, your position has been deemed non-essential. We appreciate your years of service. You'll find your severance package enclosed. Just like that. No handshake. No thanks. No dignity. Outside, the rain tapped against the tall windows like a metronome, keeping tempo with my rising pulse. My eyes drifted to the edge of the envelope, thick, impersonal, and probably printed 3 days ago. I stared at her for a moment. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I simply said, "Noted," rose from my chair, and walked out. What Celeste didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that I didn't just build processes at Ardent Core. I built protections. Years ago, when we formed a cross-departmental committee to revise internal policy documents, I helped draft a clause, a quiet little section buried in the employee handbook, one that stated, any employee with 24-plus years of service who reaches age 59 and within 30 calendar days of a loyalty milestone cannot be terminated without documented cause. At the time, it was about ethics, about protecting legacy employees from being discarded like outdated equipment. Now, it was about me. As I walked past the front desk for what was supposed to be the last time, I didn't feel sadness. I felt something else entirely. Resolve. They thought I'd walk away quietly. They forgot who wrote the rules. I stood in the dim light of my now vacant office, cardboard box in hand, staring at the life I had built in this place, now reduced to a pile of tokens no one else valued. I reached for the faded baseball card my late son had given me years ago. "For luck, Dad," he had said. It had lived quietly in my drawer ever since, even during company overhauls and system upgrades. I slipped it into the box with reverence. As I packed the framed photo of a 2008 factory visit, the one where I led the team that discovered a critical bottleneck that had cost us hundreds of thousands a year, I clenched my jaw. That trip had led to the warehouse redesign that saved Ardent Core Industries $1.3 million annually. But I guess numbers only matter when they're attached to fresh titles and shiny tech credentials. That was the problem. Celeste Morton and her ilk didn't value history. They valued disruption, efficiency, words that looked great in PowerPoint but ignored the human backbone of any operation. Celeste hadn't even been around long enough to memorize the office coffee machine's quirks, but here she was, red pen in hand, deciding who stayed and who went. My name was on her list, labeled a legacy liability. High cost, low upside. And that stung more than I expected, especially when I remembered that I had trained Aaron, Celeste's current manager, back when he didn't know the difference between vendor lead time and batch cycle time. I'd sat with him for hours, walking through spreadsheet models I'd built from scratch. Hell, he once thanked me in front of the entire staff during a performance review. "Couldn't have done it without Victor," he said. Guess those words expired faster than a software license. But none of them, not even Aaron, stood up for me when the new restructuring plans came out. And then there was Fiona, the golden hire. Fresh out of some Silicon Valley logistics startup. She was all algorithms and buzzwords. Automate, simplify, streamline. She didn't understand supply chain lag. She didn't understand vendor culture, freight fluctuations, or seasonal procurement dynamics. But what she did understand was how to slash numbers on a spreadsheet and call it success. She called my role non-essential. She said it in front of the team. The same team I had led through the 2015 supplier strike, the same team I had covered for during the 2020 pandemic shutdowns when half of them were out sick and I ran ops solo for 3 straight weeks. And no one blinked. Every birthday I missed because I was running end-of-quarter forecasts. Every winter storm I drove through sliding on icy roads to make sure shipments left the warehouse. Every time someone called in last minute and I said, "Don't worry, I've got it," because someone had to. Every one of those moments crashed into me at once. And they were thanking me with a generic HR form and a 6-week severance offer? My blood boiled, not just with anger, but with insult. With the realization that I had become invisible in a company I helped build from the ground up. As I taped the box shut, I saw the corner of an old training manual I had written in 2003. My handwriting, diagrams and all. Fiona had dismissed it as outdated. But when our new warehouse AI glitched during last quarter's inventory audit, guess what they used to fix the flow? That same manual. I carried my box past the break room where half a dozen younger analysts chatted over oat milk lattes, unaware or uncaring that a man who laid the foundation for their entire department was being quietly escorted out the back door. Pete, the security guard, met me at the exit. He'd worked the night shift for as long as I can remember. "You deserve better, Mr. Langston," he said under his breath as he took my badge. I nodded, jaw tight. They forgot who taught the system how to run. As I stepped out into the cold, wind biting through my coat, a single thought rooted itself deep in my gut. They think I'm gone, but I'm just getting started. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of coffee I'd forgotten to drink, the severance papers spread in front of me like a bad joke. Rain tapped against the windows, echoing the weight pressing down on my chest. 27 years of dedication, erased with a corporate pen stroke. But the more I stared at that envelope, the more I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't going to be the end of my story. It was going to be the start of a new chapter. So I picked up my phone and called my niece, Mallory Burns. Mallory was sharp as a blade, an employment lawyer in St. Louis with a reputation for dismantling HR nightmares and corporate double-dealing. She picked up on the second ring. "Uncle Harv, everything okay?" Her voice alone nearly broke me, but I held it together. "Not exactly," I said. "I've been let go 11 days before my retirement bonus." There was a long pause, then ice. "Did you sign anything?" "No." "Good. Don't. I want every document you have. Contract, employee handbook, benefit summary, email logs, Everything. Scan them and send them tonight." Mallory didn't yell, but her fury bled through every word. "Do you know what this is? They're trying to cheat you out of your earned compensation. And if they've done it to you, there's a good chance they've done it to others." I pulled the old employee handbook from my filing cabinet, a thick, spiral-bound relic that I had helped author in 2009 when the company still valued internal knowledge. I flipped through it slowly, and there it was, exactly as I remembered. Policy 8.3.1, Senior Staff Compensation Safeguard. Any employee aged 60 or older with 25 years of service could not be terminated within 30 days of a scheduled milestone bonus without cause, specifically defined as documented fraud, criminal behavior, or severe negligence. Mallory nearly laughed. "That's your ace, Uncle Harv. That clause is ironclad. And if the new management didn't review the legacy policies before restructuring, this could get big, fast." But that wasn't all. Over the next 2 days, Mallory dug deep. She requested my permission to contact other long-term employees who had recently been let go. She found 3, James Riley, Anita Moore, and Roy Delgado, all terminated within 2 weeks of milestone bonuses that had been outlined in their contracts. James had worked in distribution, fired 12 days before his 30-year pension vested. Anita was in accounting, let go 9 days before her early retirement eligibility. And Roy? Roy was facilities management, let go 14 days before a profit-sharing payout he'd earned through 5 years of spotless performance. We had a pattern, and more importantly, we had receipts. James still had his termination email, clearly dated and referencing restructuring for modernization. Anita had copies of her bonus eligibility projections, sent by HR just weeks before she was fired. And Roy? Roy had recorded a conversation with his supervisor where he was told, "It's just bad timing, man. You're a casualty of progress." Mallory's voice turned surgical. "This is more than a wrongful termination, Uncle Harv. This is systemic discrimination masked as efficiency. Age-based, financially motivated. If we push this right, it could become a class action lawsuit, and we will win." We scheduled a formal meeting with Mallory's legal team that Friday. I spent the next few nights gathering everything. Every memo, every old performance review, every handwritten note from senior leadership over the years. I even found the signed approval of Policy 8.3.1 with my initials on the original draft. It was surreal. Watching a legacy I had once been proud of, now becoming the foundation for a legal case. When I stepped into Mallory's office in downtown St. Louis, I wasn't an old man who'd been laid off. I was a man with purpose. She had assembled a small team, 3 attorneys, a paralegal, and 1 strategic advisor who specialized in corporate crisis management. "We're not just going after your bonus," Mallory said. "We're going after justice, for you and for every employee who was thrown out before they could collect what they were promised." She drafted a cease and desist letter demanding that Ardent Core Industries immediately freeze all future terminations pending an internal audit. At the same time, she prepared a letter of intent to file a federal complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, citing age discrimination and breach of contract. Her team reached out to Felicia Quaid, the director of HR who'd been with the company before Celeste took over. Felicia had always been fair but quiet. Mallory believed she could be the key witness. After all, Felicia had helped write Policy 8.3.1 and had the email archives to prove it. By the time I left Mallory's office that evening, the tone of the story had changed. I wasn't the victim of a downsizing. I was the beginning of a reckoning. By Monday morning, the tide was turning. I woke up with more energy than I'd felt in weeks.
Mallory had stayed up most of the night finalizing the language for a class action filing and preparing a formal notice to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. Her firm had also reached out to other past employees, some of whom I hadn't spoken to in years, quietly asking if they had experienced a similar early exit just before retirement or bonus dates. The responses poured in. 8 more names, 8 stories that sounded eerily similar. A pattern emerged. Employees over 55, each one cut within weeks of a vested milestone. And then came the bombshell. Alan Hodges, a former senior technician, still had a voicemail saved from the week he was terminated. In the message, one of the junior managers accidentally acknowledged that corporate's trying to trim fat before Q4 bonuses kick in. Mallory's team moved fast. We now had 3 documented cases of performance reviews rating employees as exceeds expectations, just weeks before they were terminated. 2 email chains referencing cost-saving initiatives tied to streamlining high seniority departments. And now, a recorded admission. She called me at noon. "Uncle Harv, this isn't just a legal case anymore. This is corporate fraud wrapped in age discrimination." I knew what I had to do. That afternoon, I returned to Ardent Core's main office. Not to confront, but to collect. Legally, I still had access to my internal email for another 48 hours. I walked past the receptionist and into the second-floor server room where I had spent countless nights rebooting systems and patching updates for the company that was now trying to erase me. I sat at the terminal, heart pounding. I searched every message sent by Celeste and her inner circle. Keywords like resignation, early exit, bonus, restructure, and seniority. The results were overwhelming. Buried in a thread from 6 weeks ago, I found a message from Celeste to a finance consultant that read, "We'll need to cut at least $400K in Q4 liabilities. Start with high-tenure staff near retirement. Offer severance, push non-compete. Legal will spin it." She wasn't just saving costs, she was orchestrating a purge. I printed everything. By 4 p.m., I had a binder full of communications, charts, and schedules with names and projected costs associated with each senior employee. It was a spreadsheet of lives traded for budget padding. I slid the binder across Mallory's desk later that night. Her expression hardened as she flipped through it. She knew exactly what she was doing. This is calculated discrimination. It's going to court. The next morning, we made our move. At 9 a.m., Mallory filed the official class action complaint on behalf of myself, James, Anita, Roy, and 4 others. At 11 a.m., her firm contacted Leah Gordon, the company's external counsel, with a warning. Settlement negotiations could begin now, or we would escalate. But the biggest shift came at 2:45 p.m. Felicia Quaid, the longtime HR director, called me directly. "Harvey, I want you to know I never signed off on those terminations. I've been kept out of most of the meetings since Celeste was promoted. You helped write the policy that protects us, didn't you?" "I did, and I still have the original signed version. You'd be willing to testify?" Silence. Then, "Yes. This isn't what the company used to be. I'll do what's right." With Felicia on board and 3 others willing to provide sworn affidavits, the case transformed from a retaliation claim to something more damning, a coordinated campaign of financial discrimination against AGIL employees. Mallory's team notified the EEOC of additional evidence and amended the complaint to include charges of systemic fraud, ageism, and contractual violations. By Thursday, news had reached the board of directors. I heard from Dean Everett, a board member who had been with Ardencore for over 2 decades. He requested a private meeting. We met at a neutral location, an old diner outside the city. He looked exhausted. We were unaware of the termination pattern. Celeste bypassed compliance reviews by labeling them under restructuring. Legal should have caught it, but I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it. But actions might, he said. The board is convening tomorrow. You'll hear from us.
By the 3rd week, the corporate house of cards began to fall. Mallory's firm had sent the board an airtight 82-page briefing. Every clause violated, every whistleblower sworn, every precedent aligned. The EEOC had already assigned an investigator, and news of a potential class action lawsuit started circulating within business circles on LinkedIn. Celeste Palmer's shining image as the modernizer of Ardencore was beginning to crack. Investors started asking questions. Internal morale was plummeting. Then came the moment I never expected. I was sitting at home, reviewing a draft testimony from Felicia for the upcoming federal hearing, when my phone buzzed. It was a calendar invite for a board meeting, not a deposition. A meeting. The message read, "Urgent review regarding HR misconduct. Mr. Harvey Langston's attendance requested. Private chamber, non-adversarial." Mallory raised an eyebrow when I showed her. She said, "They're trying to settle before this explodes publicly." That means they know you're right. That means they know they're exposed. I arrived that Friday in a gray suit I hadn't worn since Helen's memorial. Walking into that boardroom facing 7 people who had once nodded along to Celeste's PowerPoint decks felt like stepping back into my old skin. Only this time, I wasn't the guy quietly fixing things in the background. I was the one leading the charge. Dean Everett stood first. "Mr. Langston, thank you for coming. Let me be clear. We owe you, and others, an apology." He gestured at a file in front of him. "We've completed an independent review. The findings confirm your claims. Wrongful terminations, intentional timing to avoid retirement benefits, and suppression of HR protections." Then came the most satisfying words I've heard in years. "Celeste Palmer has been terminated, effective immediately." I didn't say anything. I didn't smile. I let the weight of their own words hang in the air. The board continued. They would be issuing full compensation to every employee affected under Celeste's campaign. That included bonuses, withheld retirement contributions, damages, and a formal apology letter to be entered in each individual's file. The firm would cover all legal fees incurred by the plaintiffs. But then came something I never expected. They proposed a permanent internal policy to prevent any such abuse from happening again. "We're calling it the Langston provision," Dean said. "No employee within 90 days of a milestone, be it a pension, retirement bonus, or tenure-based benefit, can be terminated without a full board review and a third-party audit." I was stunned. Then he added, "We'd also like to invite you back to Ardencore in a new advisory role. Help us rebuild trust, redefine culture." I took a deep breath. "I'm honored," I said, "but I have a different plan." The next morning, I signed the final agreement, compensation, interest, and a clause ensuring my name would be cleared in every HR record the company had. Then I drove down to a dusty old garage on the edge of town, one I had leased decades ago but never had time to renovate. With my payout, I finally had enough to open the auto shop my brother and I had dreamed of since we were kids. Langston & Sons Auto. It felt right. James signed on as my operations lead. Anita, despite having offers from 2 major firms, chose to handle our bookkeeping and payroll. Roy, the old safety supervisor, came out of retirement just to help train a new generation of apprentices. We weren't just fixing cars. We were rebuilding dignity. For all of us.
The community showed up. Former clients from Ardent Core dropped by just to shake my hand. A few reporters even did a piece about the old guard who fought back. The story caught wind online, and I started receiving emails from other workers around the country, people who had also been quietly pushed out just before their careers culminated. Some asked for advice. Others simply said thank you. And me? I finally slipped through the night. Not because I won some battle of legal jargon, but because I proved something. That silence isn't the price of loyalty. That knowing your worth isn't arrogance, it's survival. And that the best revenge isn't destroying what wronged you, it's thriving without it. If you found this story moving or empowering, leave a comment below. Have you ever been undervalued, overlooked, or pushed out before your time? Share your experience. We want to hear your voice. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories of justice, resilience, and redemption.
Sometimes, the war they bring to your doorstep is the one that finally sets you free. Fiona believed she could write me off with a severance check and a smug smile. But what she didn't realize was that I wasn't just walking away. I was walking towards something stronger. Keystone's leadership thought they were cutting costs. What they really did was expose their rot. Every email, every clause I helped draft, every loyalty they underestimated, it all became my sword and shield. When they replaced integrity with convenience, they gave me the very leverage they thought they took away. Anita's courage to speak out, Roy's willingness to testify, James's quiet strength through the years, they weren't just supporting me. They were standing up for every invisible worker corporate culture devalues until the moment it needs them. When the dust settled, it wasn't just my bonus that was restored. It was dignity, reputation, legacy. I could have gone back. The board wanted me in an advisory seat. They offered titles, new roles, even more money. But I declined. Because real peace didn't come from returning to a polished desk. It came from hearing the buzz of saws and banter in the garage I now own. From training young mechanics who remind me of myself at 20. From seeing my name not on a corporate directory, but painted on a sign above a shop built on fairness and grit. Roy's training safety protocols again, but this time it's for teens who never finished high school. Anita helps single moms budget while doing our books. James fixes cars by day and volunteers by night. And me? I finally have time to take my grandson fishing. The lesson I carry now is simple. You don't lose your value just because someone else can't see it. And sometimes being forced out is the beginning of finally walking in your purpose. Have you ever been pushed out or underestimated? How did you respond? Let's share and support each other in the comments. Be liked for this channel if you believe in loyalty, quiet strength, and fighting back with integrity.